Well, hello, First Calvary leadership types. It's been a while since I've done one of these welcome to my office fireside chats with our elders and our deacons and our staff. So I thought I would do one and just kind of say hi to all you leaders. Thank you for your ongoing leadership in the life of the church, and just celebrate with you what God is doing, and then give you some loop you in on a couple of things that are coming up that I wanted to let you all know about. So one is just celebrating what God's doing in the life of the church. I'm sure you, like me, can feel some of the new fruits that are coming, some of the kind of early fruits of Jamie being here, and just the gifted people that we have. I had a couple friends who attended church just this last Sunday for the first time ever. And they were processing with Wendy afterwards, and one of their comments was, "Man, you have a lot of gifted people there." And isn't that cool? And they, their primary thing was that they found worship really helpful, and they liked the format. And then they just were commenting on kind of the people that God has here at First and Calvary and the gifted people here. So we'll just keep celebrating, and the glory goes to God. He's the true worker. And so let's keep telling stories with each other like that. Um, we just got a bunch of letters from 300 MSU college students that we hosted for a lunch here. And they all signed and left us these awesome notes. And so we got some pictures of our band feed and all these letters. We have like a whole thing from the flute section and the clarinet section and that sort of thing. So we put those in one of those hallways that face the atrium with all those picture frames. So go check those out, read those, look at the pictures there. It's just like, again, a small little thing of what's been going on in the life of the church, hearing great things happening with people inviting people to Alpha. So whether or not our friends come to Alpha, it's been this great just like growth step for people in the church to be thinking about other people in their life and inviting them to something like Alpha. We have these new signs out for Alpha so that those we've invited, when they come to the church, can go, "Oh, this is the Alpha church," because it can be scary walking into a church for the first time in your life or in the first time in years. And so we're excited for that coming up too. So lots of fun stuff. A couple leadershipy kinds of things I think it'd be good to loop you in on. So the first of those is that last month at their meeting, our elders approved a vision frame. And this is a vision frame is eco language for like what's some core language to describe your identity as a church, what your mission is, what your values are. Is there a kind of tagline to kind of summarize part of the heartbeat of the church? And previous sessions had done a lot of really good work and really laid a framework for thinking through mission statement, our values, stuff like that. But it wasn't quite finished. But I came too early, right? So the gardeners weren't able to finish up that process. So over the last, I don't know, 6-7 months, I've been working with your elders on a process. We've been doing some of this at our regular meetings. We've had special meetings over at my house here at the church to just talk about just clarity around who are we as a church, clarity around our mission statement. And at our last meeting, we finalized everything. So attached to this email, you're going to find a sheet like this that kind of walks you through identity statement, mission statement, some values, and kind of a new, refreshed look to our logo. And all that stuff, I just wanted you to be looped in on that. All that stuff we're going to be like unveiling in the month of October. And so in October, we're doing a middle to end of October, we're doing a 3-part sermon series called Our Kirk. Kirk is the Scottish word for church. And so it's a sermon series, kind of who are we as a church and what are our values? So we're going to be walking through our values. Also attached to this email is this little brief that I've written up on kind of the biblical basis for our values and what we mean by the values language. You can ignore these cute little icons I was coming up with. We have one of our scholars working on a better way of visualizing our values. So that month when we preach through all that, that's when we're going to be unveiling some of this new language for the church and start using it a lot more. I mentioned we have one of our scholars working on some ways of visualizing our values. And so I'm excited to see what comes of that. I'm really excited for that. The tagline of ours, which is a house of prayer for every generation, which is historical language for us as a church. It's on our stained glass. For the first 32 years of the church, every worship bulletin said at the top, the house of prayer in the heart of Springfield. And so what does it mean to be a house of prayer, and a house of prayer for every generation? And so that tagline, really, we're going to be really launching with that in January. So the rest of the language in October, in January, we're going to start leaning into what does that mean, that we want to be a house of prayer for every generation. I'm working with a gifted artist on kind of creating a little storybook that narrates some of our history through that lens. And we'll be working with that language and stuff too. So just want to let you know, and we're going to ride this for a while. We're not going to have new mission statements all the time. I know in the interim, we came up with a mission statement with that kind of initial draft work of the vision frame, but it wasn't quite there. It wasn't quite finished. And so this new core language, we're just going to be using this. It will do two things. It will help us internally align around who we are and where we're going. And that can only help us like make decisions and say yes to certain things and no to certain things if we have that alignment. And then this kind of language helps us better introduce ourselves to people out there in the world who don't know our church. And it can be really helpful for that as well. So vision frame. Two more things. Number one is the budget process. So we're starting the budget process. Steve Young, our director of operations, and I are going to be kind of gathering in from all the different ministries budget requests for 2023. So with your ministries, in your committee meetings, if you have some here in September, or maybe you can start emailing and chatting together, but at least by your October committee meetings, we're going to need you to be landing on kind of, here's a request for our budget for 2023. Included with that, not just one number, but like, are there any new things you're doing? Is there anything that can help us understand the request? Those are fun things for us to be able to bring to the congregation when we're talking about the budget. And then we'll be putting that budget together for the whole church, adding all the numbers up, see where we sit. One thing to note is that for this year, so if you think about your 2022 budget numbers for your committee or your ministry, our budget for this year was purposefully a deficit budget because we've made the decision that we want to invest in growth. And so to do that, we're staffing up, we're starting new programs, and those things cost money. And so a little bit of a deficit budget this year. We're going to be fine in terms of our finances, mostly because hiring people has taken time. And so we haven't had that expenditure for all 12 months of this year. But just keep in mind as you're setting your budgets, this year, 2022 was a deficit budget. So maybe don't double your budget requests. Like I think generally speaking, maybe think something in line with what you had for this year, or up and down a little bit, depending on what your ministry plans are. There's nothing wrong with us wanting to do new things. We want that. There's nothing wrong with us maybe deciding, hey, we're going to press pause on this thing we've been doing. That's totally strategic to do sometimes as well. But be starting to work on those things. Steve and I will be in touch with you more. Just want to let you know we're starting that up. We would love to have budget requests from different folks, kind of annotated ones, kind of comments on them and everything by the end of October. So we can sit down, we can come to your committee meetings, one-on-one, whatever it takes, so that by the end of the month, we have all those in. Third and final thing is stewardship. So we're doing a little shift in our stewardship timing this year. And we're going to be unveiling this with the whole congregation, but I wanted to let you all know ahead of time. There are some churches like ours that are starting to shift their main stewardship pledge drive from October to January. And the reason they're doing this is because they have good data on giving. And so even without having all the pledges in, they have a decent sense and can decently predict about what the giving will be for a coming year prior to even getting the pledges. They have a general sense. And what they found is that if you do a pledge drive in January, there are two immediate benefits of that. Number one, allows all your communication in the fourth quarter of the year to be focused on giving. And so for this year, for example, we focus our communication on 2022 giving. Where are we with our budget? Where are people with their pledges? We can follow up, ask for end of year giving, etc. And then in January, new year, new vision, new programs, new stewardship program. And churches have been finding it really helpful to start a new year and say, it's a new year. Here's where we're going this year. Here's the programs we're doing. Now, let's think in terms of stewarding our resources. Where are you going to volunteer your time relative to all these plans? Where are you going to be giving your gifts and using your gifts in these various programs? And how are you going to support these programs with your tithe? And so we run a full stewardship pledge, and pledge campaign in January. Stewardship committee and finance committee heard about this happening. They weighed all the variables, and they decided it was actually beneficial for us to do that. So we're going to do that with one caveat. So we're going to shift. So you're going to hear in January, we're going to hear about our vision for the year. We're going to do a stewardship campaign for tithes, talents, and time, which will include a pledge drive. It's hopefully going to be really exciting. The one caveat is that we are still going to do a quiet pledge campaign in October. So those members of the church who have pledged historically, we're going to do a quiet campaign, just send letters to them, let them know about the shift, why we're doing this strategic shift, and then say, we want to invite you before January. We want to invite you here in the time of year when we've always done it to go first and kind of lead out by you giving your pledge now, so that when we start the all congregation pledge drive in January, we'll be able to go to the congregation and say, we already have this much pledge. Now let's get over the goal line together. So we're going to do a quiet pledge drive in October, and then a full loud pledge drive and fully robust stewardship drive in January. So just want to let you know about some of those shifts. More information will be coming about all these things. Holidays are coming. We're starting to make plans for the holidays. Worship ministry just decided at their last meeting, I think it was last week, that we're recommending having 2 Christmas Eve services at 4 and 7. So at 4 o'clock would be the family Christmas candlelight Christmas Eve service. And then at 7 o'clock would be a communion candlelight Christmas Eve service. And then they're also recommending that on Christmas Day, which is a Sunday this year, that on Christmas Day we have one single service at 10 a.m. Now, there's some things that still need to be decided. Christmas dinner for those alone. How do we handle that this year? How do we handle that since Christmas Day is a Sunday and we are going to have a worship service? So your elders are currently thinking about that, praying about that, and that's going to be one of the bigger items on our session agenda that's coming up. So pray for your elders for discernment on how best to handle Christmas Day this year. Again, all these things, some of this stuff is still being developed, but I want you to be in the loop. I want you to kind of have a heads up on what some of the thinking is, some of the places that we're going or that we're heading going forward. I like you guys. I like leading with you and partnering with you. This is really fun. And it's also a challenging time to be a church, and an important time for us to be a church. So I'm thrilled about how things are going and partnering with you. And let's keep praying. Let's keep moving forward on our feet. I'm so excited, or moving forward on our knees. I'm so excited to see what God is going to do and how God is going to continue to draw people to Jesus and how God's going to continue to grow people as disciples. And we get to labor alongside him as he does that. So how cool is that we get to do that? And it's really, really cool that I get to do that with you.